So, welcome to Frank Skinner in conversation with, I really want to sort of fanfare now, but Roger Daltrey is here in the studio. You don't need an introduction, but I am tempted to say that you are one of the seminal voices of rock and roll music in the world. And that's not bad, is it?
Well, if you think that's okay by me.
Come on, it's not just me. This isn't an idea I've come up with on my own.
It's been a good career, yeah.
Oh, God. Don't talk as if you're retired.
It's been a good career. No, you never know as being a singer. Voices tend to be the first thing to kind of start to give up.
Yeah.
As you get older, don't they?
But that is true. I saw Charles Aznavour, the French singer, recently. And the first thing he said to the audience was, look, I'm going to be straight with you. My voice isn't what it was. And I thought, wow, that's pretty upfront. But I've listened to your new album, As Long As I Have You, and I'm not giving you any bull now. Your voice just sounds as good as it did in 1968 or whatever.
Thank you.
What's the secret?
I got lucky in two ways. One, I was singing for a long time with a pre-cancerous kind of condition.
Oh, really? That's
making
one of your lucky things.
Well, lucky because it was pre-cancerous.
Okay.
But it made my voice very gravelly for a while, and singing was becoming hard work. And also, the second thing was I got my hearing back by wearing hearing aids and could actually hear what I was singing.
Okay. Well, what did you think? It's pretty good, isn't it?
Really, seriously, for the first sort of 30 years of the Who's career, it was very often I couldn't ever hear myself on stage. It was the volume was so much.
Yeah.
So I used to oversing and all those kind of things. Thanks to hearing myself,
yeah,
maybe for the first time, I could actually use my voice with all the things that it's got in it, and that's what I wanted to do on this record.
Well, when you say that the pre-cancerous thing, I don't understand why that was a plus.
Well, vocal cords it's a tiny little piece of the body, but it's an incredibly complicated muscle.
Okay.
And if they don't collide perfectly together, the two sides of it, it allows air to escape, and that's when people have raspy voices.
Yeah.
So anyway, I managed to get to this fantastic throat doctor, the guy who did Adele and who hasn't he done Sam Smith? He's done everybody. But I was one of the first ones to go to him. And he lasered it off, this pre-cancerous thing. And all of a sudden, my vocal cords could meet. And I had the voice I had before I started over-singing in 1964 with The Who.
But you really have got that voice. I mean, the new single, which is How Far, that is The Who voice, I would say. It's as high, as clear, as powerful.
Well, yeah, I've got a big pair of lungs, and
you have.
But the other secret is I work all the time. When the Who aren't touring, I've got my own little band. I've got two bands. I've got one I go out and earn a living with, and another little band I go out with that I've got fiddles and accordions, all that kind of stuff that I do charity gigs with. And that's fun because that's a cheap show to put on.
Yeah.
Doing Who songs is a very expensive show to put on because you need lots of equipment and musicians and all that stuff. So I formed a cheap band for charities. I
love that because that new single, it says I'm fed up of living out of a suitcase.
I am getting sick of the travelling.
Really?
I love the singing and I love doing the shows, but the travelling drives you nuts, doesn't it? Travelling is...
Yeah, but Roger, it's took you about 55 years to get to this stage.
Yeah, but it used to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember when you could walk into airports in sort of half an hour? You'd be through and on the plane. Now it's 2.5 hours and there are queues everywhere. Everything is, you almost have to strip naked before you get on the plane.
Yes.
It's all becoming a nightmare,
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, it has changed a bit. In your days,
it was fun.
Yeah, it's like getting a bus.
I can remember travelling to America so many times, and there was only the band on the plane.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you get a private jet, Roger.
No. This was just ordinary BOAC in those days, wasn't it? BOAC. And quite often we'd have a plane to ourselves.
Fabulous.
Incredible.
Will you tour this album? Is that a plan?
I haven't got any plans to, because I'd have to start another band. I'd have to use the musicians from the record, and I'd also have to find another 40 minutes worth of similar material, because this wouldn't mix with Who material.
No, but this is your 9th solo album, so you are a genre in your own right.
Yeah, but they're all very different albums, aren't they? I mean, the first album I did, the Daltrey album, that was all early Leo Sayer songs.
Yeah.
With orchestra. And,
God, giving it all away, fantastic.
That's a great song.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I got lucky with that one.
So, I tell you what, it's interesting to see you this close to a microphone without you swinging it round and round your head. I'm glad you haven't done that, because we don't have that much equipment. Absolutely. Do you still do that?
I do, with very little of it now. But I can do it if I have to.
How did you?
It's a great form of protection.
I bet it is. Yeah. Has it ever gone wrong? You must have slapped yourself around the head. It's only ever gone.
If it ever goes wrong, it's usually me that gets hurt. It whacks into me. I've never hit any of the band ever with it.
I thought that's why Townsend kept jumping.
I've only ever hit someone once deliberately with it.
That's a good story.
That was a good story. That was a Teddy boy. We were playing with Chuck Berry in 1960 when the Stones were in the Park. Was it 69?
Oh yeah.
The same day the Stones were in the Park, we were in the Albert Hall.
Okay.
And we were on with Chuck Berry. We were supposed to be the headliner, and Chuck was supposed to be supporting us. But Chuck Berry, being Chuck Berry, threw a big wobbler and he wants to be the headliner. Well, so we didn't care who goes on first. We don't care about things like that. So anyway, we tossed a coin. We were doing 2 shows that day, and Chuck won the toss, and he chose to go on the first show. So he was the headliner on that show. We supported him.
Yeah.
And on the second show, he had to support us, of course. Of course, Chuck Berry's audience was very different than the hippies that were supporting us at the time.
Right.
They were all Teds and rockers.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chuck did his show and left the stage, and then we come on playing Tommy and all that stuff. That was the early days of Tommy. And of course, all these Teds took umbrage to the lack of rock and roll music, and stormed the front of the stage. And they were they had those giant copper old-fashioned pennies, and they clipped the edges with.
Oh, so to make them sharp.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were, and I saw this guy throw something, and I didn't think anything of it. But the next thing I know, there's kind of got warm stuff coming down over my eye, and I put my hand up to my face, and it's just nicked my eyebrow.
Yeah.
The blood is streaming down, and I happened to see him throw it.
Yeah.
And he was stuck in the middle of this crowd of Teds, all shouting and screaming, terrible language.
Yeah.
I just pointed at him and started swinging the mic in an ever-arching loop. It's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I kept pointing at him. And I just let it go, and it happened to hit him smack on his nose, and he deserved it.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. That's like the old slingshots of yesterday.
It was. I was a good shot with that thing.
Yeah.
I could take a cigarette out of a roadie's mouth from about 20 yards.
Well, it's, for his health, it was a better thing in the long run. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to go into this early, but you did have a reputation in the early days that if you had a disagreement with somebody in the band, you'd hit them.
I was 18, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's kind of that period of your life, isn't it? And I used to love a ruck.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I mean, I was brought up in Shepherd's Bush. It was a rough area, and being a little guy, I used to get bullied quite a lot. So that kind of it sets off your fight or flight thing, and I always chose to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I ever felt it was coming down on me, and in a band things can get quite heated at times.
Yeah,
I would always attack first because, as you know, surprise is everything.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of fighting myself, and I'm going to take your word for it.
Well, I found out fighting, because I used to get bullied, that surprise was everything.
But you knocked out Keith Moon, is the story.
No, I didn't knock Keith out.
You didn't knock him out, okay.
No, and...
You just winged him.
No, well, he did attack me with the tambourine turned sideways, which had the bells kind of slashing at me.
Yeah.
And I had to do something about that because, he was in a raging temper.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't knock him out, but I did hit him.
Yeah.
I knocked Pete out once.
Yeah.
And that was, again, he was drunk. He hit me with a guitar.
Holy! Do you ever just sit around and have chats?
Unfortunately for me, I was being held by the roadies because they knew what I was like. So they, instead of jumping on Pete, who was the drunk one, being aggressive, they jumped on me, thinking, "Oh God, look, something's going to happen here." And they're holding me, and he hits me.
But you're never
So
at
he
John
says, "Well,
Entwistle.
let him go, I'll kill him." So they let me go, and unfortunately, Pete can't fight. He's not a fighter, and he was drunk, and I just hit him with it. It was just a perfect timing punch, and he just went. His feet left the stage. It's true. The irony of this whole thing is that there was a film crew watching this, and they never shot one foot of it.
Oh.
The whole thing, and it's terrible.
You could feel that on stage. There was a energy and a menace on stage. Just when you came on the stage, it felt like, when you're in a pub and the guys come in, it felt like that. The whole tone of the place changed. It was really exhilarating just before you'd started playing, even.
Well, I've never been in the audience when we're playing.
No,
but,
well, take my word for it.
Pete used to say, being in the Who was more like being in a gang than being in a band. But I suppose we were in some ways, because he was bullied at school. I was bullied at school. I don't think John was. John was very quiet. You never really got much on it, but he was a big bloke anyway, so I don't think he was. Keith was completely crazy. He was a great bunch of people. He was genius, but he was so out of control.
Well, I remember him coming on stage that night, and he came over the speakers. He like a big spider coming over the speakers. He didn't walk onto the stage normally. It looked very dangerous, and probably was. But I always felt I had loads of albums and stuff, but I didn't really get the Who till the first time I saw them live. And when you see them live, you think, oh man, this is why they call themselves the greatest rock and roll band in the world. 'Cause it was just an experience.
Yeah, I've always thought that, we never quite ever got what we are onto record. I think the closest we got was Who's Next.
Yeah.
But when you saw us live, there's no doubt that once people saw us, I think that's the reason why we're still going today. And the audiences keep coming. Now it's another new young audience, because young people see us now, and they're kind of, they realise that this is something different than what's out there.
I'll tell you something. I was saying on the new album, there are songs like the single "How Far" when you sound like classic Who Roger Daltrey. But then there's other songs. There's a Nick Cave cover, "Into My Arms," and if someone had played it to me, honestly, I would not have known it was you. And I've heard you sing a lot.
The whole album really it's about the voice and what the voice can do. And I wanted an album that touched people. So I found songs that touched me. And that Nick Cave song, "Into My Arms," was always one of my favourites. I've never thought that he sang it to the quality of the song. Nick has got this kind of dark quality to the song. I love it, the way he does it, but I thought, I can do something more with this. My early days, when I was a sheet metal worker in Acton in a factory, we used to sing a lot of Johnny Cash stuff. So that part of my voice has always been there. I've just never had a chance to use it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm going to imagine myself, how would Johnny have sung this song? And so it is my low register, which you very rarely hear with The Who, because, Pete writes the songs and he writes for his key.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to sing in those keys. I don't quite so much anymore, but that's what I used to do.
I remember watching a documentary about Tommy, and I think originally the See Me, Feel Me song was Pete was going to sing it, because they thought his voice was all sensitive and vulnerable and plaintive, and yours was too much like a warrior. And then he said he was on his way into the studio, and he heard you singing it, and he thought, oh my God, he's got it. He's absolutely got Tommy. That's the voice. He has to sing it. And it's a real, even telling it now, I get a real tingle from it.
everybody gets the impression I'm a hard nut, and I'm not. I'm a really sensitive bloke.
Yeah, well, you've established that so far in the interview.
But I'm a bit upset with the way voices are going in music at the moment. The young voices, they're wasting their voices. And I think a lot of it's to do with the in-ear monitors they use. They're starting to sing in their heads. They're not projecting.
Oh, okay.
I mean, when you heard that gospel choir at the wedding, for instance, they were singing.
Yes.
They were just, woo, that's a real voice. Something about having your voice in your head and hearing it so loud, if you're not careful, it can stop you trying to project, and the voices go up into the nose and everything comes a bit squeaky.
That's interesting.
Have you not heard it in yourself?
Well,
Have you ever thought about it?
I've never thought about
Listen
it.
to people's voices.
But you are a student of the voice, aren't you? You are, though. Obviously you've given it a lot of thought over the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like the trained voice, for instance. I mean, it's great in theatre because it needs to be. You've got to do it 8 times a week. Night after night after night, you kind of have to sing that way.
Yeah.
But I think training voices sometimes knocks more out than it puts in to the voice.
I was reading an interview with Pete Townsend, and he said, well, first of all, he said, I've written 6 or 7 new Who songs, and I played them to Roger, and he didn't like them. That must have been a bit awkward, was it?
I can only be honest by what I heard. I'm trying to remember what songs they were because I haven't played. There was one that I thought had a lot of promise lyrically, but the other ones, they all sounded a bit Broadway to me, and I can't kind of put my head in that direction, you know.
But you and him can have. I mean,
yeah, I'm always honest with him about. I mean, I have to tell him what I feel because I've always told him what I feel. I'm one of the few people that haven't brown-nosed. Because writers like Pete, who's so prolific, I mean, he writes all the time. You know, they can suffer terrible from sycophantitis.
I bet.
And it destroys them in the end because there's nothing coming back. So everything is wonderful. And, of course, not everything we do ever is wonderful.
No.
A lot of it might be. We need pointers when it's going wrong.
And you're his pointer.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm you know, he can take it or leave it. I have to be honest about what I thought of them when I heard them.
But what he went on to say in this interview, he said he found it frustrating that you didn't write more songs for The Who because he thought you were a much better songwriter than maybe you thought you were.
I did a thing in New York a month ago with Nile Rodgers for his foundation. I did some Who songs with Niall's band, and they played my music. So they had Who Are You and Barbara O'Reilly all written out, you know, in the dots.
I love it. On music stands and things.
And when they started to look at it, what they thought were easy, just 3 easy chords, and they saw the complexity of what goes on within a Who song, they were astonished. But I've always known it's there. So, you know, I can write lyrics, but I'm not a great melody man.
But you wrote Always Heading Home on the new album.
I wrote the melody of that. I only wrote one line of the lyric.
Oh, OK. Come on, make your mind up, Roger.
Well, I mean, that was a melody. That was something. I did that way back in 1992, I think.
But that is a great song.
Yeah,
I don't have a cigarette lighter anymore, but if I had them, I would have reached for it. It felt like one of those anthems you get at the end of a gig, you know.
What I thought about that song is that it's a spiritual song. It's not a religious song, but it's very spiritual. And it travels. I think, you know, what I like is as an end of an album, it's kind of the end of a journey and it's travelling.
Yeah, but it feels like the end of a gig. That's why I'm asking if you're going to tour it. I could just see you
I
doing
do that on stage now. I've done it. I did it at the Albert Hall in March for the Teenage Cancer Trust. It sounded great in the Albert Hall.
I bet it did.
I've often thought it would make a great song for the Remembrance Day at the end of the First World War. Other than a religious song. Yeah. You know, because I find religion has suddenly become quite divisive, hasn't it?
Well, you've got to I mean, that Nick Cave song, I think, begins, I don't believe in an interventionist God, which is one of the great opening lines of any song, I think.
Well,
wow.
I am an atheist.
Yeah.
So it
I'm a Roman Catholic. But hey, we can still get on, Roger.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what counts. You're going to tour Tommy with an orchestra, is that right?
Yeah. it's the Who band without Zach Starkey.
Okay.
I can't afford him.
This is Ringo's son, we should say.
Yes. He's a very expensive drummer, but he's a very good drummer. So I've got the cheap version, but he's very good.
Do you think The Who will ever produce another rock opera? Or is the rock opera genre has that gone now?
Life's an opera, isn't it?
Yeah,
but don't you think it all adds up to be an opera?
If you think about The Who, and I don't know if you've ever stood back, they were, like I say, quite a sort of tough guy, explosive band. And then suddenly they took a turn, and it probably began with Who's Next, where they became more experimental, more poetic, and then, Tommy happened, Quadrophenia happened. I don't know if I can think of a modern band who could
Tommy,
who could
to
do
me,
it.
is the best opera ever written. I mean, I've been to quite a lot of operas recently, and there's not a lot of lyrics, is there?
It's Italian. That's what it is.
A lot of repeated lines, and when I listen to Tommy, I think, well, it's more of an opera than any of the others.
I love you sitting there thinking, well, it's not Tommy, is it? La Boheme.
Yeah, I mean, melodically it's wonderful, and,
Yeah.
and the melodies are wonderful, but, I can only take one line repeated 6 times so much.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. You're a tough audience. In the 70s, when I was a young man, I still at school, I always used to get NME every week and Sounds every week and all those. I was obsessed, and you were all over it. And in those days, you were often called Squire Daltrey. Oh. I remember.
But that's some journalist being smart.
But there used to be pictures of you in tweeds, like, because you had a trout farm and stuff like that.
I did, but I wasn't that person at all.
No.
I wore tweeds as a protest because everybody was starting to dress the same, and I thought, I'm wearing. If they're going to wear leather, I'm going to wear tweed.
But it looked great. I remember those pictures of the big cap sitting on the curly hair and you.
Yeah, but
trout glistening in the distance.
Well, the trout was all because I was interested in farming because I lived in the country.
Yeah.
We had to move out. It became very difficult to live in London and have any privacy at all. So we moved out of London. And of course, if you live in the country, the best thing you can do if you live there is to give someone a job. So then I got into farming, started to employ people. Then I got bored, me and a mate with a bulldozer, a couple of bulldozers. We built these enormous lakes.
Yeah.
And then decided we've got to put something in them.
Yeah.
And all my mates from Shepherd's Bush came down and they looked at all these lakes and it's beautiful, the fishery that I built. And they said, you can't have all this to yourself. What about us in our council flats, We deserve places like this to come to and get out of the house.
This is socialism in action.
Yeah. And they were right. So I opened it to the public to come fishing. And of course, once I did that, all of a sudden I've got to have a supply of fish.
Yeah.
So I bought a trout farm. I found one that was for sale. Didn't know anything about it. And I suddenly found an industry that was in its infancy. There's such bad practice going on, chemicals being used and stuff going on. It was terrible. And they were producing fish with no eyes, no tails. They didn't even barely look like a trout. and I thought, I'm going to get involved in this and try and clean it up. And I did. By the time I got out of it in 2000, I was producing perfect trout. And we got salmon back in the Thames, all that kind of stuff. I was really proud of that because that industry could have gone really badly wrong for the rivers. It's
brilliant because for me, you will always be synonymous with the trout industry.
Well, not because I have to put the other one in. That was
No, you always. I don't know. I went to.
Everybody thinks I'm a mad fisherman. I'm not at all. I'm not a mad fisherman. I was more interested in the science.
I'm taking it that the Who don't smash up stuff anymore on stage. That's kind of gone, hasn't it?
The last one went. The last guitar got broken in 2005 when we went to Japan for the first time in our whole career.
What, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we played. We were way down on the bill because we'd never played there, and Pete broke a guitar at the end. We were supporting Aerosmith.
Okay. So you did it for old time's sake, kind of thing?
Yeah, he kind of did it just for the Japanese, the sacrificial guitar. There was. And I've got that guitar, actually. That's the one he gave it to me at the end.
Well, because it was broke.
Because it was broke, yeah. He wants me to glue it back together, which I used to do in the old days.
The thing was that some people think that they kept, like, rubbishy guitars to smash up, but often you'd see him do a gig and then the guitar would
They
go.
weren't rubbishy guitars, it was the real deal. I mean, hundreds of them.
Did you have a meeting and to say, you know what, maybe it's about time we stop wrecking the equipment?
It became a pain in the arse.
Because you used to smash speakers up as well, didn't you?
No. I used to use the cymbals on the microphone.
Oh, okay.
That was my addition. Because I don't think anyone really quite understood what we were doing. The smashing thing was just the visual.
Yeah.
But the sound thing was what was, to me, more important. Because when that guitar was being broken, it used to scream. It was like feedback. Sacrificial.
Yeah.
It was really like a sacrifice. And it could go on for 5 minutes. And so I used to just try things to do to add to the noise and the whole cacophony of this. Because it was like an abstract soundscape of the Vietnam War at the time. That's what I was trying to create,
Wow, really?
And I used to kind of rub the mic up against Keith's cymbals and kind of do that with the cymbal on the mic.
It's great. It's quite...
Get that chopper sound,
Yeah, but as you say, it's art. That's what it is.
But no one ever wrote about the sound. They always wrote about the visual. And he smashed the guitar. Well, it was much more than that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but they wrote about it, Roger, and that's what counts. But as you say, it's not the sort of thing you could do forever. One of the great moments in rock and roll music, and I bet you can guess what I'm going to say. It's the scream on "Won't Get Fooled Again."
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's something every time I hear that, it goes down my spine. It's just a moment. It's like you say, that thing about smashing stuff up. It's like the frustration and everything of the modern world comes out in one goes. I can't do it, and I'm not asking you to do it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
No, God forbid. I wouldn't ask you that, Roger. But it's an iconic moment.
Be primal. It was supposed to be the primal scream.
Was it scripted and planned? Or
Pete did a little yell. Kind of, yeah!
Yeah.
And I thought, this yell could be better. So... Yes, it
got better.
It got a bit OTT, really, didn't it?
And what about the stammering on My Generation? Was that whose idea was that? Is that something that just happened?
Well, I used to have a stammer. I still do, and I kind of swallow it, but I still stammer.
Okay.
And it was something that came out when I was trying to read the lyrics. I can't read lyrics and sing. I have to know the lyrics and sing from the head to the heart.
Oh, so you have to learn them by heart first.
I can't get them off the page and make them mean anything.
Okay.
And it was when I was first running it through that I started on the first line. Kit said immediately, Kit Lambert, our manager, who was our producer as well, "Oh, we've got to keep that in." The fade away was inferred on Pete's original demo.
Yeah.
The long F.
Yes.
So it was kind of like a stammer, but then stammered the beginning.
And it works perfectly because it's about a sort of a teenager and
it's
all
perfect.
that insecurity and all that.
It's the perfect opening line for that kind of arrogant song, and it is wonderful.
I love the way you love The Who. I heard you talking about this album and you said to someone, it's a bit of a sideline with me, the solo stuff. The Who always comes first. And I thought, he's such a team player, Roger. I love that.
Well, I believe in the team. I'm a great believer that the team is always better than just the solo. The great bands, it's the chemistry between the players that make them great. Like Oasis, for instance. I mean, They're both good on their own. Liam's good on his own. Noel's good on his own. But together, they're much better.
Yeah.
And I wish they'd get back together, and I wish Liam would shut up on Twitter. so give it a chance, Liam, because we all love you, and the chemistry of those two together is magical.
I interviewed Ringo Starr once, and we got in the lift to go up to where I was interviewing him, and he said to me, "You're not going to talk about the Beatles, are you?" And I thought, This is going to be tricky. And some people are like that. They don't even, they don't want to talk about stuff they did in the 60s or 70s. And I think probably it's because you've carried on that it's not a threat to you, if you know what I mean.
It must be different for him. I don't know how they ever survived what they went through. I mean, that level of fame must have been extraordinary to live through. Can you imagine?
Roger, you were in the Who, mate.
No. Ours is. They were more. They were. John Lennon was right. They were more famous than Jesus. It was like worldwide hysteria.
But you must have had a fair chunk of that stuff.
Well, we had a bit of it, but we used to frighten people to death, so they stay away.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to mob the Who. They get their heads locked up. Well, I thought about you guys. I was watching the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm going to own up, and there was a stage invasion, and this bloke just come and took the microphone off this singer, the UK singer, and took it. And I thought this wouldn't have happened with the Who. I remember at Woodstock.
It did happen once. It happened on stage at the Fillmore East.
Okay.
Back in '67, when someone ran up and I was singing Pinball Wizard. And he snatched the microphone. There was a geezer just standing there in jeans and a shirt and a whole jacket. And he snatched the microphone off me and went like to do that, to try and talk into it. I snatched it back and kept singing.
Yeah.
Pete Chuck Berry duck walked across the stage with the guitar and promptly kicked him in the balls. And it turned out that the guy was a plainclothes cop.
Oh, wow.
And he was trying to make an announcement that the building next door was burning down. Could we please evacuate? So we were on the run all night, no doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Please tell me no one perished in the fire.
No one perished. We got out, but I mean, it was very serious.
Wow. What about the acting? Because you are one of the few rock stars who really made the acting a legitimate career in its own right. Or did you see that as a sideline as well?
It was a sideline. It was better than painting and decorating.
Yeah.
When the Who weren't working.
I don't think you needed to do that.
No, but the missus wanted the house painted.
Okay.
No, but
I can't. I'm in Listomania.
It was all happened because of Ken Russell. He got me into Tommy, and I fell in love with the whole process. And because Tommy was easy for me, it was music, something I knew, and I invented this character. I didn't have to say anything; it was all singing, natural to me. But then I did, when I did Listomania, I suddenly realised I didn't know how to deliver a line of dialogue. I had no idea. I knew how to move around a film set and hit the spots and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to just take every job that comes through the letterbox and go out there and work. And that's what I did. I did all kinds of little stupid things, and I loved it.
I remember when you played McVicker, you were great as John McVicker.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to do because it was a reflection of a lot of friends that I grew up with who did actually become bank robbers. And they all ended up with nothing. And John was very honest about his life, that it's a mug's game.
Yeah.
It's a mug's game. And he turned out to be a good one because he came out from prison.
He did a sociology degree.
He did a sociology degree. He became a really good journalist, really good writer, and never been in trouble since. So
but you did a great job on him in the film. You did Shakespeare.
That was fun. Yeah, that was good fun.
You've had an acting career that a lot of people would be happy with as actors. You know what I mean?
I suppose. Yeah.
Let me ask: does it help? Because I have spoken to singers who say, there are songs that you feel you have to do on stage, and there must be 30 that the Who feel maybe that they have to do, and they say, you've sung a song 1,000 times, it gets hard. And I wonder if, with your acting experience, that helps you. Actors say you have to say every line like you've never said it before. I wonder if that helps you to keep those classic. If you have to do My Generation,
that is true. Because I always try and sing the song as though I'm singing it for the first time ever. There's only one song, and you'll be surprised what it is, that I actually do start to get a little bit bored singing it, and I find it difficult. And I shouldn't really say what it is, because
No, go
people
on.
will never hear it the same again, will they?
Go on, tell us.
You won't get fooled again.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know why, but I'm just being really honest and saying that's the only song. All the others I can inhabit, and
Isn't it interesting?
it's really strange.
Have you ever wondered what it might be?
Yeah, I'm wondering why now, but it is that song.
That's not bad, though, just one.
No, I know, and all the others, like, it's, like Barbara O'Reilly and all that, it's immediately back in the first moment of it.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. That is an anthem worldwide. You can play that in any arena, and everyone knows the words. They all sing that chorus.
Now, it's
only
a bit
teenage wasteland.
It's a bit like when Kennedy got shot. I remember the first time I heard that song, and it's one of those rare ones. Often with a brilliant album, I think you don't really get it till 4 or 5 plays in. But that one was like an instant hit. You just knew there was something special about that.
Well, just the quality of Pete's, the backing track that he put to it. It was all tape loops,
Yeah, I know,
kind of working together.
Which at the time I hadn't really heard anything like that.
No, no
before.
one had. It didn't. I mean, at the time it came out, Who's Next didn't get to number 1 in the charts. It didn't actually. It was
Really?
extraordinary. People, because it was so new at the time. People hadn't heard those sounds before. This weird stuff the Who are doing. But in the fullness of time, it's been our most successful album. That and Quadrophenia.
Am I right that Who's Next was a sort of a... It's not what it was going to be. It was the remains of an album that never quite happened, or a live show, or a movie.
It was the remains of what Pete envisioned as a movie.
Okay.
And it was going to be called The Lifehouse. It was Kit Lambert, because Kit Lambert was the son of Constant Lambert, who was the founder of Sadler's Wells, the composer and conductor. And so Kit was always saying, rock music can be much, much more than it is. It should be. We should be doing rock operas. There should be bigger pieces of music, not just the 3-minute single is great, but together, in a group of songs, it can add up to much more. And he was so right, of course. So Pete was always kind of looking for the next big story to tell.
Yeah.
And it was always about the human spirit, the human journey. That's what it was all. Very psychological stuff. I mean, listen to Quadrophenia, for instance. God.
I've got to end up with... we have 3 things in common, Roger. People wouldn't think we have much in common, but we were both expelled from school.
You too?
Yeah, me
I'm glad
too.
to hear that.
Yeah.
What for?
I was embezzling the school meal service.
2 dinners?
No, I recycled. I found out where they threw the old dinner tickets, and I sold them to kids at half price. And it threw the system completely, as you can imagine. You were for smoking, I think. Was that right?
Well, I don't know. There was all sorts of things.
Yes,
Frank.
I bet it was. We better not go into the detail.
Yeah, it was, yes.
Okay, we'll leave it there.
But it's one of the better things that happened to me in my life, to be honest.
Being expelled?
Yes.
There you are, kids.
Yes.
Like a lesson to be learned from that.
No, well, I kind of feel sorry for so many. It's probably something like 60% of the youngsters out there today who'll be driven to go to university and get some stupid degree that they're never going to be any good to them in their lives. And the ones that are being successful are the ones that leave school and go out and get a job and graft. Not everybody's good at being academic, are they? Not that we should all be stupid.
No.
But I just think it's completely lost at the moment.
I just want to tell you, I've got 2 degrees.
Have you?
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Have you really? Well, I'm an honorary doctor.
Well, there you go. I saw the bag you brought in. Also, the second thing we got in common, we've both played Alfred P. Doolittle on stage in My Fair Lady.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
And thirdly, we've both done a football song.
Oh, right.
I don't know if you knew I'd done one.
No, what?
I did one for England called 3 Lions.
Oh, right.
Okay, I'm sorry that passed
What's
you by.
your team, though?
My team is West Brom.
Oh, commiserate.
Thank you very much, yes. We do a funeral march for them at the moment.
Yes, that is a bit sad.
But you did Highbury Highs, which was a celebration of Arsenal leaving Highbury, which I didn't know about until recently. I watched footage of you singing it at the ground.
Yeah, I wanted to do a traditional Do you remember the old cup finals?
Oh, Abide With Me.
When the Marine band used to come out with the white helmets.
Ah, brilliant.
And they used to sing with a brass band. I thought, I want to do a song like that about Highbury, because, I've been going there for like 25 years and watched my son grow up there. And I just wanted something that kind of reflected on what Highbury as a ground
and did you
meant
write it?
To the club. I wrote that,
Yeah.
Was it Highbury Highs over North London skies? Oh yes,
Don't
I will
rub it
remember.
It's been great talking to you, Roger. I'm really glad you're still working. The album, as I say, is called As Long As I Have You. It's out now. I've listened to a lot of, American music. I love Johnny Cash. I love all that stuff. And it's got all that. I was blown away by how good your voice is, and I'm not giving you any BS. And I'll tell you something else. I love the McCrary sisters who do backing vocals.
Aren't they great?
Oh, they make me tingle.
I wouldn't take anyone less. So we tried putting session singers on over here, and I said, this ain't the real deal.
No, they.
So the producer, Dave Erringer, went over to Nashville and got the McCrary sisters out. Because they're sibling voices. They do something, don't they?
Well, as an atheist, that's the closest you'll ever hear to an heavenly choir. Look, it's been brilliant talking to you. Best of luck with the Who tour. The album, I'm sure, will do brilliantly. Keep working, because it's great.
And you.
Cheers, mate.